What is a board bio? And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and unmute yourselves if you have something you want to chime in with, because I'm working off of a different screen here, so I want to make sure we see you and get your comments. But just to clarify, and people might already have this information, but we're just going to give you a little bit about what a bio is and what a bio isn't. So everyone has a resume, right? It's not a repurposed executive bio. It's not a version of your resume. You have your resume that's organized chronologically. It's factual. It has very specific details. It includes education, has all the companies you've worked for or the last 10 or so years, titles, years for the roles you held, as well as responsibilities, objectives, outcomes. And it can be 2-3 pages, right? You also don't have a photograph that you include. So the board bio, a little bit different, right? It's organized by relevant experience and expertise. And it articulates and tells your personal brand, tells a story. It's a high-level overview. It shouldn't include all of your roles, years, dates, and any of that. You can have more than one version of your bio, which obviously you can have more than one version of your resume as well, but you really are tailoring your board bio for each specific role that you're looking at. It also includes a photograph, and it's written in third person. So we'll go over this as we walk through the presentation, but just to give kind of the structure that we like. We have a personal value proposition. So you really are tailoring that for each board opportunity, and mentioning your expertise in areas like finance transformation, IT transformation, M&A transactions. Do you have international experience, et cetera? And a positioning statement that really refines your personal value proposition and elaborates on that, presents you as an expert in a certain skill or an area. Then you have an intro paragraph talking and outlining your current and or most recent responsibilities and talking about your experience there and backing up the positioning statement. So it's building on a story. And then you have an additional 1, maybe 2 paragraphs providing an overview of the relevant career experience and expertise in your background. And then you'll list your board experience, any types of industry associations that make sense, any publications, those types of things. And then you'll have your education after that. Make sense for everybody?
Yes.
Great. Okay. And feel free, if you have a question as I'm going through this, or you want to discuss something, please just go ahead and just shout out. So one of the things that we see frequently when we're going through board bios, they tend to be a little bit dry, and not tell a personal story, not have that personal element. You can have that in your board bio. You want to have something that makes you stand out and unique. You want to have a professional, modern looking photo that shows your personality a little bit, shows your face. It doesn't necessarily have to be highly corporate. You can do something that is a office casual, business casual, or maybe a jacket without a tie, those types of things. You don't have to be that super corporate look unless you're going after that type of a board position. You also, from a personal branding standpoint, I know a lot of y'all already do this, but to be seen as a leader, you need to show your leadership, right? So write articles, publish, speak, and make sure you highlight those things that you do on your LinkedIn profile. You have links to those. That helps you get noticed. And especially when people are looking, like myself and Marie are looking for people to recruit for board roles. So after we go through this workshop, you might want to, as you're writing your board bio, brush up your LinkedIn as well. So just a few slides to set up before we start getting into the nitty gritty and talking through what we will put in your board bios. Some of the criteria for board director recruitment that want you to be thinking about as we go through this is specific industry experience, finance, past experience as an executive, an active executive, qualified financial expert, strategy, IT, seeing a lot of digital transformation, international or global experience, government, regulatory, corporate governance. These are the things that boards are looking for. So we have some charts in here that will help you a little bit as you think through, how do I want this bio that I'm going to be submitting for this specific role? So looking at a little bit of what organizations are typically looking for in directors to create, and you're thinking about it, they have an existing board and they want to create a diverse, comprehensive mix of expertise and perspective. They want to bring people in that have a different view or a different background than what they currently have. So if you're looking at this this matrix right here, this is something that you can think about as you go through and look at what you want to highlight, right? And bearing in mind that there are some things that you're highlighting that are, ethnic diversity, gender diversity, active, retired, those types of things that come across in different aspects of your bio. Then we have some examples of what you can pull from the annual report so that you can see those and kind of create your own structure, right? So you see here, I'm sorry, I'm not sure exactly which, it's coming from Walmart. So you have all of the board members listed, and then there are areas, and you'll be able to look in and see where does my skill set fill in. Another example from Prudential, just set up a little bit differently, but again, you see what's important to them and where they have filled in on the board experience. Same example from CVS. I don't think we included these in the workbook, but if y'all would like the chart, we can certainly send that out to everyone as you're thinking through it.
Could you please, Cindy, that Prudential one in particular looked like it had some good specifics? Would be interesting.
Absolutely. And you should be able to, just what I would do is go find the proxy statements for similar industries and and you can pull and get some ideas from that. But yes, we can absolutely do that. So think a little bit, and we're not going to spend a ton of time. We can certainly have a conversation, but you have a workbook in front of you that we're going to take a minute and think about why you want to be on a board. What are you passionate about? What inspires you? It can be on a personal level, on a professional level. Why are you taking this journey, right? But the next thing that should be something that will be a little bit easier for you to come up on and keep working on the professional passion, personal passion, if you think of more ideas, but some other questions to just answer and start jotting down. So what areas of expertise have you developed in your career? So where are some buckets? And you've seen the examples of the expertise and experience that companies are looking for and exists on boards. So do you have 2 or 3 really key strengths that you've developed? And a question that we saw that we really like is where would you be considered the top 5% of your peers? Where are you an expert? So in the workbook, and I'll kind of read these out to y'all so you can be thinking about it. Business development executive strategy, business strategy, business capture, major accounts, learning organizations, enterprise strategy, adult learning, leadership development, business performance, shareholder value, operational excellence, customer experience, large-scale program management, engaging diverse constituencies in dynamics of change. So those are some of the areas, international expertise, corporate governance expertise. Marie, anything else that you can think of that you would put out there?
I think it's on the next slide. It's more so, a time where you've scaled an organization and quantifying that, right? Putting that into place and even adding a number. You scaled from 0 to 30 million. You helped the organization. So I think you'll discuss that in the next slides in terms of maybe achievements, accomplishments. That's really important to clients.
And we can even go through these and then circle back. We have where we're putting it all together. So y'all have time to ask questions on specifics, but we're just kind of putting all the pieces together for you right now. And then thinking about what are companies talking about in their boardrooms, what in your industry and specific companies, what's unique, but what are some common issues? There's disruption from emerging technologies. There's always M&A. They might be, if you're going after private boards, IPOing, global expansion, digital transformation, IT transformation, hypergrowth, scaling a business, cybersecurity. Those are some of the things that are going on right now. And y'all may have some other areas in your industry, but when you're thinking about what boards are going to be interested in and what they're looking for, what are some of the topics? And especially when you think about the boards that are looking that you are looking for. Another topic actually is diversity.
Yeah, from my experience, the candidate, the board of director I placed last year in February, it was a hyper growth tech SaaS organization to where they were looking for someone with tech experience, as well as someone who has, like I mentioned earlier, grown from 0 to 30 million. So that's really important to quantify that, depending on the type of board roles, industry specific you're looking to get into and want to pursue. CEOs, board of directors, they obviously want to see and want to make sure you're quantifying those. Being in the SaaS industry, just to add to that, it's a very small niche. Yeah. So another key thing that clients I've worked with really want to emphasize on leveraging connections, your networks and resources to assist, right, the stakeholders and executive team to really achieve, their mission. So that's really important to them, to leverage your network and connections within that specific industry. And like I said, SaaS is a small niche.
Who else? Okay, so Jim, you read in high tech, technology solutions targeting boards of industries that exactly. So that's where you might be looking at it differently. Like for instance, you might be able to go into an oil and gas or something that's really a little bit further removed and just starting to come into that digital transformation. So you can have other areas and highlight that digital transformation experience. And even Francesca, in hearing you go through some of your experience, really you're going to be looking at these and tailoring your personal value proposition and the positioning, those two starts of the bio. You're able to switch those out and highlight different skills when you position yourself for different board roles. So you want to get kind of as many things and topics that you can think of down and get them on paper, and then you'll start writing. So the interesting thing about those industries, professional services and advertising, marketing, communications, is one, you're seeing across several different industries the best practices, right? And you have that knowledge that you can share with like industries as well. So then you're looking, when you're coming up with your your personal value proposition, you are kind of seeing where those things intersect, right? What are companies needing? What are you passionate about? What are your areas of expertise? And you kind of string that through the bio. Does it make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
now, given those areas, we'll give you a little bit more time, and you can ask questions if you want to, thinking through what is, if you look at the boards that you're interested in, or even, I know, Trisha or Tracy, sorry, you are looking at targeting clients. You can think of it that way too, right? I mean, what are some of the things that your expertise brings in as far as the personal value proposition for boards that you're interested in? Where does your experience and passion match their needs? So, and these are really, it can be anything. We have another example in the workbook that is Jane Smith. So you can do as little or as much of what's in there. It could just be, she has transformation through brand strategy, and then lists a couple of relevant positions and board experience. She lists that she was on the audit committee. That's another thing to kind of that's important that you do want in your board bio. She lists her education in the personal value proposition area, lists her current title, COO and CFO. So these are positions, board roles, or areas of expertise: digital transformation, international expansion, go-to-market strategy, expertise, that kind of thing.
Is the idea to give like a succinct, like almost like a headline of who you are or why you are maybe the right person for that specific company board?
Yes and yes. So it's a highlight. It's a and also this is the format that we're reviewing. If you want to change something, you can do that. If you want to just do your title and current company next to your photo, and then just do a positioning, but you want something that highlights about you, what value you are going to bring to the board. So highlights your where you are the top 5%. And so yes, it's just a highlight in the personal value proposition. And then when you get into the positioning, you're going to start, I'll go to the next page. Because these really go together and play off of each other. And you'll be able to see that if you go to, I believe it's page 12. It has an executive bio sample that you can read through and see how she does, how she works through this, right? So the positioning statement, it's getting deeper. It's further elaborating on what you've called out in your personal value proposition. So where were you, what are some of the things, if you don't mind going through and talking about maybe what you thought your areas of expertise?
So I worked for Staples from startup to Fortune 100.
Okay.
So the benefit of that was to join a company at, infancy stage. I think it was around $15 million at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then grew with the company from an entry-level job to the last job I had, which was responsible for North America.
Okay.
And so that's hyper growth for a retailer who also grew and transformed along the way. But also, and I know it's a little hard to, like, for me to get it into words, but also transformed a few times along the way, because
Sure.
if you start as a traditional retailer, but you cannot stay that way in today's competitive world. So we became a multi-channel company,
Mhm.
then became a much more seamless omni-channel company. And then the nature of that business was not only digital transformation from the standpoint of traditional business moving from physical stores to digital channels like e-commerce or digital download, etc. But also because the nature of that business, like the office's work went digital, so people no longer work with pen and paper and all that. So there was quite a bit there. My trouble is, I'll just do this quickly so others can jump in, is I find that these sound good, but by the time, every time I read one, I feel like everyone does transformation, everyone is a strategic expert, and everyone is a change agent or what have you. And I don't want it to sound like inauthentic, but I feel like boards, and having sat on a public board, they actually do need that. But how do you break out of the crowd, I guess is the question.
Sure. No. So heard a lot of things in there and a lot of examples too. So, growth from a startup it grew startup from 15 million to whatever, the end result was of that. Right. And Staples, huge name, any big brand name like that you want to put Staples. And what was your last role there? North America presidency of what?
Yeah, President North America, retail and e-commerce, right?
Right, exactly. So that's huge. And the retail and e-commerce, you started somehow, and you have to play with it, right? It's like you have to kind of let things sit and massage them and go. But from retail channel to multi-channel to omni-channel, transformed startup from retail entry stage or something like that to multi and omni-channel, however million-dollar business. That's in your positioning statement, drawing it through, and some of the examples. Does that make sense to, as far as taking something and getting a couple of, and I get it, the change agent is so overused, but you can find ways to say that will bring that out, and then you're going to back it with the brands, you're going to back it with the numbers, you're going to back it with the metrics, and kinds of things.
I actually want to add to that because you made a good point. What will make you stand out? I actually have an acronym for that. It's MSA, Made, Save, and Achieve. So you can talk about oversight of digital transformation and, talk about enabling the amount of cost savings, right? So you saved, what's the amount of the cost savings, right? And then growth of maybe new business models. So quantify, again, going back to what you've achieved, quantifying it, stating the facts, elaborating and focusing on those. And clients love to see numbers.
Yeah.
So disclose the numbers, cost saved, 20 million, right? And just elaborate and focus on that. So focus on made, save, and achieve.
I like that. I love the made, saved, and achieved. And
yeah, just keep that in mind. MSA, made, save, and achieve. And again, just quantifying that and attaching the number next to it.
And then you can also put a %, a $sign, and a number of people, those kinds of, because you also grew that way, right?
Well, I appreciate you both saying that, because I actually hired a writer to do this because I thought they're better at it than I am. And he screamed at me to put all these numbers in, and I was yelling back like, no one wants to see that. But I guess he and you are both on the same page. So that's good.
Yeah. And you don't have to, it's not a resume. It doesn't need to have it's just the key achievements that are through this story that you create. And again, I have my LinkedIn profile in here. We're going to give you our email addresses. If you want to kick some things back and forth with us, we're happy, because it's really hard to write about yourself too. You know? Oh,
And this is just what we're hearing. We're working with a lot of CEOs and other board of directors and VCs, and this is, the trend. This is what they're looking for. This is criteria that they're looking for in the board bio. If they don't have a board bio, these are the criteria they're asking from us. So we need to make sure we always are aligned when it comes to their MSA, because that's the first thing they want to discuss. Yeah.
anybody else want to go through that process and kind of talk about it of what you're thinking? And you guys, you're going to rewrite these many times, right? It's like a resume. You always go back and go, wait a minute, this is better. And so it's a living document.
Yeah. And always tailoring it depending on, the industry and specific, opportunity that you're looking to get into. So you'll always change it. It's a iterative process as you go along, depending on, what company you'd like to sit on.
Anybody else want to talk through what they're thinking or or you can even throw it in the chat if you don't want to.
A question, Cindy and Marie, maybe you're covering it later, but about other boards that might be nonprofit. So I've heard varying advice from resume write many sources. Some say if it isn't a private or a public company board, it matters not. Others say it does matter. In particular, I've had experience on finance and audit committees, but for a nonprofit, but not a big national nonprofit. So would love your experience and guidance on that question now, or if you're covering it later.
Does it back up your story? Does it, so for instance, if you're sitting on, there's a board that I'm a member of here in Houston, the Houston Council on Recovery. And, they have the board of trustees, they have the board. I mean, you're making financial decisions for millions of dollars. You just put, again, those numbers in. So you decide what the experience, but if you're in an audit committee or it is experience with governance. So, if it's a small, I don't even know how to give an example, but just something really small, really local, only a few people in the organization, probably not going to be something you're going to put in there, but you just look at how it backs up your story. Can you back it with some numbers, and is it relevant?
That's very helpful.
That's kind of the litmus test on that. Marie, anything else you want to add or?
Based on the clients that I've worked with in the past year, a lot of them, if they don't have board experience, then obviously, again, it's about, your connections, your network. If you don't have current private experience, I'm always a big advocate of, okay, let's open up and broaden the search for candidates who doesn't have, the recent or even private or public experience, but let's widen up the search. Let's look at candidates who have the network, who have the connections, and, let's broaden it versus just siloing and focusing on candidates who have experience. I mean, that's the number one criteria a lot of the clients ask me is they have to have a private or public board experience. They should have had sat on a board. Otherwise, we won't consider them. So I'm always a big advocate of pushing for candidates who don't have those experience. That's why it's really important to focus on, your business strategy, execution. And again, the people development too is a key factor to that if you don't have any recent or any experience with board.
The other thing that we haven't talked about is that's important, and it kind of goes in the order, right? It's great if you have the board experience, great if you have the public board experience, if you're going for a public board role, private board experience. At the C-suite, and were you at an organization that was large enough that you were regularly presenting to boards, that you were involved in the governance? Those are things to consider as well.
Presenting, yes.
Presenting to boards, presenting to, yes, exactly. P&Ls as well. then, and so now we're going to move on to career highlights. So this is going to be, it's going to support the personal value proposition. You're going to pick out so when you write your resume, right? You have a section, and it's a phrase that the marketing people will get, but it hasn't been used for a while, right? Top of the fold or above the fold. So what do you want above the fold? That's your personal value proposition and your positioning. And then you're going to start streaming these things in. But on a resume, you have a summary section. You have that some people have the top 3 to 5 things that they achieved throughout their career that might be further down in their resume, but they want someone to see at the first glance. Those are the things that are going to go in this 1-page bio. So size of P&L, size of team, growth achieved. So it's really Marie. Marie and I have worked together for 2 years, and I haven't heard her say that. I love it. The MSA, made, saved, achieved. Dollar signs, numbers, and percentages. So that's an easy way. You go MSA, pound sign, dollar, percent, and those are the things that you want to kind of put throughout and put in your career highlights. It's not a 1.5 pages worth of what you've done with tons of examples. It's the 3 to 5 things that are really, really highlights of your career. Achievements.
Do these age out? Meaning, would you not advise if something's 20 plus or more years old?
So you want to always kind of come up with your most recent, but the way that this is structured, if you look on, and we'll get to that slide, and it's in your workbook if you have it printed out, but you have your PVP, your positioning, you have a paragraph about what you're currently doing, and then you kind of put your experience, if you have something really amazing that you did 20 years ago, then you can put it in, but in my industry that I've been in marketing and advertising, if I put my achievements in, but it wouldn't be as relevant, right?
Right.
So just think of it that way. Is this still something very relevant? I would say growing an organization, growing a team, those are relevant experiences. So you can put that in. But you want to lean more towards the last 20 years than the prior to that.
As I thought, but just kind of good to hear.
But if you have something really great that you did, it's something that you've achieved, and it's a perspective that you bring that is relevant. So just weigh it again with relevance, with, that one would be relevant, recency, and does it back your story up? So sometimes when there's a method of interviewing called top grading, and the interview is one of the most extensive interview processes I've ever seen. I was actually trained in it. And you start a conversation with someone by saying, where did you go to college, and how did you decide to go to that college? Because it builds on the type of person, their character, how they went through their career. So think about it that way. Did it build? Did it get you to the next step? How big was the accomplishment? And then you get to your credentials and skills. And these are things like serving on a board, if you're in the medical field or a scientific field, publications that are very relevant. Any achievements, awards, those type of things. Again, think of that top 5%. So then we'll just show you, so the putting it all together, it's the personal value proposition. And Mary, I was going to ask you, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find your resume. I think I worked on your resume with you, and we did a little bit different structure than this, where we just put a couple of statements up at the top, correct? If I'm remembering correctly.
Are you referring to me,
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I think we did. I was just actually looking for it.
Yeah, and I can find it if we want to talk through this, but it's this is a different structure than I think you and I did. So it doesn't have to look exactly like this, but with Jane Smith, obviously the board role that she's applying to, it was relevant. The COO, CFO for Acme Worldwide, the fact that she's in consumer products. So she pulled out certain experience, but you can have something where it's 3 statements. Digital transformation, omni-channel or single channel to omni-channel growth. Those things that are just very quick statements that are impactful. You can put that there. Then you have your positioning statement. That's a paragraph. I think that Jane Smith wrote this very well. I'm going to read it if I can, because hope you don't mind. I'm pulling my glasses down a little bit further, but Jane Smith takes a vision and makes it reality through sound strategy development. She intuitively sees the threads of opportunity that wind through an organization, brings them together into a coherent whole, which helps others extend their thinking and drives material business advantage. She's an inspirational leader who tells stories that inspire action, while at the same time is grounded in the financial information that levers the business, respected as a credible voice in decision-making, finding strategic financing partners, and establishing governance boundaries. Jane earns a seat at the table wherever she serves. So a little bit more personal, a little bit broader. I think she could have probably pulled in a little bit of specific examples if she had any. Then you go into the next paragraph that is the current title, the scope, put in there who you're reporting to, if you are reporting to someone, whether your role has any interface with the board, whether you're dealing with governance, whether you're presenting. And then the next paragraph or 2, depending on how you want to do it, is your career highlights. And then you have your credentials and your education. And then there is really a number 6, which is be sure to put your contact info on the bottom. So then you have the kind of your board bio with the pulling it all together. Oops, sorry about that. Here. So you'll pull this all together and pull those statements with your picture. And hopefully this helps everyone. It's nice to jot things down on the worksheet and then start putting it in a Word doc and pulling everything together.
As we're going through the list in terms of, pick your favorite: digital transformation, cybersecurity, customer experience, M&A. What are your thoughts on ESG and the needs of boards there these days?
I haven't had much experience with that. Marie, are you or Namisha?
Recently, the board placements I've had success in are within SaaS technology sector, so not within the ENG.
I would say I've actually had more recent requests, more in the last 6 months on ESG, and the second one that I think I've had the second one in the last 2 months is on expertise on diversity strategy.
Right.
That's the other one that I've started seeing.
And it also, and it depends on the industry as well. Is there something that they are being affected, how much is the industry being affected by that? And do they need to have a positioning? Do they have to, is it something they'll be needing to address?
Yeah, no, and actually, so the reason why I was asking is twofold. One is, in light of everything you hear and read about what, quote, boards need, and some of that being driven by both ISS, BlackRock, and others. So wanted to get your thoughts on that. But the rise in terms of boards are being held to not just shareholders, but also stakeholders was the other reason for asking. So thanks for providing your thoughts on that one.
Sure. And that's, again, it's a per board basis. And, I always, when I'm working through helping someone with a specific position or board role, doing the networking and using your network to find out a little bit more about what the hot topics are and what's probably going on in those board conversations is a good idea as well.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question for you, actually, and it goes to really positioning, I think, less career highlights, because I can hit the highlights on it, but how do you recommend presenting two different careers? You know, I'm on my third industry related, right? But the first, I'm going to date myself here, the first 20 years was in a completely different industry and moved into a related industry where I've spent the last 15 years. So do I need to tell that story? That's my question.
I think if it's relevant. So are you, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I spent the first 20 years of my career in broadcasting, in journalism, you know, both as a producer, an editor, and an anchor for networks, and then shifted into media, governance, and then corporate communications, both at a CPG, and now I'm at PNC and I'm on media.
I think it's pretty relevant. Because
so it's all related, but I always get the why, right? Why shift?
Right. And I think you're not going to get it as much when you're going for a board role as you would for a position specifically in
Right.
some, right? And the aspect that you're bringing, and you have the media experience, but I always think it's really interesting when someone has media from both sides.
Yes.
Right. And you bring that, I mean, you know the tricks and the questions, right? And you know how to, and so you can think about it from that aspect. And I feel like it is a nice transition along a career. And maybe it's because I've been in marketing, advertising for, I'll date myself, since before .coms. So, you know, and so I know a lot of, you know, here in Houston, there are many a reporter and journalist that moved into marketing and you know, video production and media, et cetera. And it's something that I've seen multiple times. So the other thing that area of your career brings is a tremendous skill at communication. And
Boards, do they care about that? I feel like everyone feels they can communicate.
They do, but it's structuring. So the last board role that I was working on was specifically looking for someone that, if you think about it, if they're going in the market and trying to penetrate and you know, or open up a new market, and they need to get into other boards and communicate and pitch, they need someone that has the idea and can put it down to, and this might not be the best example, but I just know from any of my media training, it's always, what are the three things that you want to keep circling back to, and how do you, and so coaching the executives on how to present, being able to get the key messaging and the positioning right to help executives from the sales and marketing perspective. It's more and more important on boards. It used to be that marketing communications didn't have much of a seat at the table with that, but you know, as you've seen it grow, and as you've gone through the industry, it's more about results, right? So
well, and I would also offer risk and reputation, right?
Right, exactly. That's huge. So I do think it's relevant, and I wouldn't just cut off and start at the last 15 years or whatever your career. I would you know, highlight some of those achievements and work it through the story.
Great advice. Thank you.
I'm gonna add something to what Cindy was saying. The other one is crisis comms is
Yeah.
a big one.
Well, I was at Equifax for 2 years after the breach, so I got that in spades.
That's one of your examples, right?
Right.
And how you, yeah. So thank you everyone for coming. Hopefully this was very productive, and we would love to hear your thoughts and any suggestions for anything else that you'd like to hear from us, and help with any kind of board burning questions and guidance that you need. Hope you're walking away with more than you came with. And if you still have questions or comments, reach out to me. And then I think I've included my LinkedIn. And Marie, if you could put your email address in too.
Yeah, I'll include my
Would
LinkedIn.
be great. And we are more than happy to review and give suggestions, and you can go back and edit and get it back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.